Chicago? What do you say? Cubs gonna win today.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise Podcast. It's Tuesday. We're going to talk baseball with our national baseball expert, David Brown. And David, can you win a trade 7 years after you make it when none of the guys you acquired are still on your team?
I love the concept of it. I like to say something just happened the other day. Byron Buxton hit a home run against Garrett Crochet. So the White Sox were not involved, but I still made a comment that the White Sox won the trade because Byron Buxton hit this home run off Garrett Crochet. So that isn't exactly what you're talking about, but I'm on your wavelength here, so we can give it a try.
So the reason I bring this up is that two key members of the Paul Goldschmidt trade are now incredibly good players. Carson Kelly for the Cubs, catcher acquired in that December 2018 trade. Currently hitting .361, .500, .820, 8 homers, 22 RBIs. He's walked 17 times in 61 at-bats, 7 strikeouts. He has more homers than strikeouts. And Luke Weaver, also part of that trade, gave up his first runs of the season last night for the Yankees. He has an 0.59 ERA, 16 strikeouts in 15 innings, only given up 5 hits. So the Diamondbacks clearly won the trade, even though those guys are both on, I think, their third team after they left.
I'm now fascinated by this trade for a couple reasons. I love this that you noticed about it, but it's Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver are like when you go out and you try and trade someone like Paul Goldschmidt, I don't think that you necessarily set out, maybe Luke Weaver. He was a pretty good prospect. But it's funny how useful they are. Like Carson Kelly is going to regress. You know, he's not going to hit .563. Yes.
He's not?
He's not. But he's still, when he's been healthy for his entire career, he's been a useful player. And Luke Weaver has turned into a really good relief pitcher, although I think he had a bad game the other day. So maybe it's
last night.
Gravy trade. Yeah.
Devin Williams put him in a tough spot because they've switched now. Devin is now the setup man. And Luke had to come in with the bases loaded against the Padres and gave up a couple of hits, and the Yankees lost.
But these guys are, this is now 6.5 years ago since this trade was made.
Yeah.
And these guys are very useful players in the league, and you don't see that a lot. Usually, maybe one of the guys will still be around, but two of them they're pretty useful. And Andrew Young, do we know who that is? The mayor of? He plays for the. No, he doesn't play for anybody.
It's not the same one. I thought the same thing when I saw it. I thought it was the guy who plays for the Nats now.
Right.
This guy's out of baseball. And yes, he used to be the mayor of Atlanta.
Right.
Also,
it also says.
Also, I had a brother-in-law named Andrew Young, R.I.P.
Andrew Young Dolan.
He was brother-in-law.
I get that right. Andrew Young, whatever. I want to know. It also says I shouldn't eat Cheez-Its.
Do you want to know who the Comp B pick was?
Who is it?
White Sox outfielder, Charlotte Knights outfielder, Dominic Fletcher.
Did you see Dominic Fletcher get a save the other day in AAA?
No.
He went, he's gone. The White Sox have, they don't know how to develop players, but they do have, I'm thinking of, his brother. His brother, David, who's been I don't know if he's been shadow banned or what, but he's been involved in some kind of gambling malfeasance. But he's he's trying to be a knuckleball pitcher, and Dominic had a really nice save in a save situation. It was like 13-10.
Yeah,
and they didn't have any pitchers left, and he went up there and was floating the ball, and it was it doesn't look like it's sustainable, but it was one of the nicest looking saves you'll ever see from an outfielder. So
there it was. One inning pitched. He gave up 2 runs, but he had 3 to play with, right? No,
Right.
1 run. He only gave up 1 run, 2 hits, 1 earned. He gave up 2 runs, only 1 earned, and he struck out 1, didn't walk anybody, and he now has a save.
Struck out the last guy he faced. It was a very, very pretty looking moment.
And he's hitting
So
281,
Dominic Fletcher.
347, 506. He's the new Shohei.
He is. He could be a 4A player, but I suspect that he could be in the majors if the White Sox knew what they were doing, and he could at least be a good bench player. But
I don't know. That's tough to crack. It's tough to crack that White Sox roster.
Yeah, you'd think there's so many guys. Not like there's. I just talked to Chaz McCormick on the Astros, and he can't crack the Astros lineup. And you look at who's playing the outfield for the Astros. At first it was Altuve. Now he's not even playing left field. And they got some guy named DeCenzo. It's not spelled like Doug DeCenzo.
I was excited when I heard the name. I thought, it's right. Doug's kid. It's not.
It's not. But he's like third string on the Astros. Guys like that should be hitting third for the White Sox. Yeah. But
don't the
that's
White
a heck
Sox
of a trade though? It's a heck of a trade for.
Don't the White Sox currently have 3 Rule 5 players on their roster?
I know it's 2.
They got Gage, and they've got, is it Shane
Gage
Smith?
Was the third, yeah.
Yeah.
Shane Smith just pitched last night, and has pitched pretty.
And there's another one.
He's going to stick.
So they've somehow
the long relief guy.
They somehow have a terrible roster, and they've painted themselves into a corner where they can't demote 3 of the guys, or they lose it.
Right.
This is a great job of accumulating. I don't know if you've seen any of the Red Sox documentary that's on Netflix. It's made by the guys who made Last Chance U, those old community college football ones. There is one of the most awkward, teams try to get way too cute when they tell a player he's being called up. They like to video the AAA manager telling him he's gonna. So Cam Boozer, who's had quite a checkered past, had to overcome alcoholism and lots of injuries and all kinds of stuff, almost made the Red Sox last year out of spring training. And they showed that clip where Craig Breslow was telling him, "We're sending you to AAA, but you're a big league pitcher. You're going to be back. Just keep working. If the roster had sorted itself out differently, you'd be on the team right now." Right. So about a month into the season, the AAA manager, who I forget who it is, it's somebody we know, is very awkwardly trying to tell Cam he's been called up. And he's like, "So do you think you could go multiple innings tomorrow?" "Yeah, I can do whatever you want. You need me to start? I can start. You need me to close? I'll close." And he's like, "What about in Pittsburgh?" And you can just see the look on Cam's face, we're not fucking we're not playing Pittsburgh. And he can't. The manager refuses to just come out and say, "Congratulations, you're going to the big leagues." He's doing this cutesy thing, and Netflix is recording it, and Breslow's listening on the phone, and it's the most uncomfortable thing. They basically ruined the moment for Cam, because they finally have to beat him over the head and go, "Yeah, you've been promoted. You're finally going to pitch in the big leagues." Oh, good. It's Jesus, it's not that hard to do this.
I don't like the practice of trying to deceive the person into happiness,
right?
And then filming it, and it's sort of it's a cousin to these baby gender reveal videos.
Yeah,
it's just get on with it already, and stop exploiting the emotions of a person. I mean, it's I think what they want to do, what they really want, is that the person break down and start sobbing.
Yes.
So it's good TV.
Yeah.
It's terrible. This is, it's totally different than the thing that you wanted to talk about with the AI voice of the dead guy, but it's just inappropriate manipulation of human emotions. Oh, it's disgusting. I mean,
So one of the things that the NBC got the NBA back, and they're trying to go very 90s with everything. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to bring back Jim Fagan, the deep-voiced guy. The problem is he's dead. So they're going to use AI to recreate him, which we just don't need that. Like, here's an idea. Maybe give a job to another guy or a woman with a cool voice instead of doing that. I could see maybe doing it once, and what you really should do is simply, or why couldn't you just do this? Why couldn't you just have, when you do your little intro, when it says the NBA and NBC, you just use him, like an actual recording of him, not an AI recreation. Don't have him try to read, this is sponsored by Nationwide and and budget rental car. No, you don't need that shit. It actually might be kind of cool to just have it go the NBA and NBC with him, and then a new person who's actually getting paid. They get to do the rest of the announcements. That would be kind of a nice little nod. Not this somebody typing words in and then, the computer tries to say it like he did.
I hate to be this cynical about it, but are they only trying to save money by not employing another person? And how expensive could that be?
No, I can't imagine those. You pay those guys hardly anything. It has to be. They just think it's cool. Like, well, it's gonna be fun. Didn't they do? They did like an AI Al Michaels at the Olympics. Like, they're just
I didn't
clearly
listen to it because I hate the concept.
An AI budget and they're going to spend it. I think that's pretty much what it is. Somebody put a line in the guy's budget and he's going to make sure he zeroes it out before the end of the fiscal year. So anyway, congratulations to... Actually, there's one person, like if you were the Diamondback scout who recommended Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver, you're sitting somewhere going, see, I told you. I told you they were good. It's not my fault. You couldn't use either one of them properly. But Carson Kelly, the Marquee, did this long thing a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about how he is mimicking Barry Bonds. And that's what turned him around. I just assumed it meant he's full of steroids. This is going to be Jim Miller when he had the 3 good games for the Bears. And we're like, oh, we got a quarterback, and then he flunked a drug test. We're like, that's why we had that's why we had a good quarterback. He was juiced out of his mind. It's football. Who cares? It's been pretty impressive. And, he's a catcher. I just expect... He already, like, during the midst of this, he got hit on the hand. And I was just convinced he broke his hand. And he missed a couple games when he came back. That is the problem when a catcher is really important part of your offense, is that people are literally throwing things at them all day and things get broken. But there is a guy, the Cubs, Moises Ballesteros, who's like their 4th best prospect.
Where do you buy your steroids?
Yes, that's right. It's code for Carson, buy your steroids. He's a Cubs supposedly 4th best prospect, but nobody in the International League can get him out. He's hitting 400 as recently as just a few days ago. The problem with Moises is he's a catcher he's Williams Estudillo, basically. Too fat to catch. I
was thinking of Hector Villanueva-esque.
Well, that would be fine, because whatever... I still use a Hector Villanueva baseball card as my bookmark. So I see Hector every time I open a book. There he is.
Oh.
I love that guy. Moises probably too fat to catch. They try him at first base, and he's 5'8". He's as wide as he is tall. So if you keep the ball low, you won't get it into the dugout because he'll hit it with something. But if you throw it normal height, it's going to sail right through him. But he can really hit. And there are Cub fans who are already resigned to the fact that that's going to be who they trade when they inevitably trade for a pitcher. But I walked through it in the newsletter today, I think yesterday or today, about there's a lot of ways to get him on the big league roster. If either catcher gets hurt, he comes up because he becomes the other catcher. If Seiya gets hurt, he comes up, he's the DH. If an outfielder gets hurt, Seiya goes and plays the outfield, and he's the DH. And then we even suggested that because Pete Crow is so fast, and Kyle Tucker is also a very good outfielder, that they could play Moises at third and just have Happ stand close enough behind him to back everything up, and you'd be fine. So
I think I like your tactics.
The Cubs, they did take my suggestion of dropping Dansby Swanson to the 8-hole. I suggested it, and the next day, Craig did it. And Dansby's hitting out of his mind now. So I think the Cubs, they should just take my advice until it's proven wrong, which might take forever because I'm on a heater. So that'll be good. By the way, Paul Goldschmidt now for the Yankees hitting .353.
Yep. I figured he would bounce back. I know he's 37 and a half or so, but he's had a nice career. And I think, I don't know if he can hear me, Paul Goldschmidt, but I've mentioned out loud that he could use a little bit more to get in the Hall of Fame. Just a little bit more. He doesn't have 400 home runs, and that always looks good.
Yep.
He's on the edge, though. He's kind of in the just south of Eddie Murray range. Eddie Murray had 521 home runs, but I mean in terms of like WAR. He's very close. So I don't know if he's a first ballot guy or people are going to have to do whatever, but he's very close. If he could win another World Series, that'd look good. And hanging around the Yankees, certainly that'll get you closer than the White Sox or other places that Goldschmidt's been recently. So
his most similar hitters are all really good. Only one of which I think is ever going to be in the Hall of Fame. They are Joey Votto, Derek Lee, Freddie Freeman. Freddie's, I think, had it there. Adrian Gonzalez, Ellis Burks, Lance Berkman, Will Clark, Matt Holliday, Jim Edmonds, and Shawn Green.
Well,
although similar batters to his age, you get Fred McGriff and David Ortiz, and you get those two, and they're both in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I think Votto's a Hall of Famer. I think.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And Freddie Freeman.
I don't know.
Freddie Freeman only has 335 home runs. It seems like it's more, but
do you think Trump is going to let Canadians get in the Hall of Fame anymore?
It's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't put anything like that past him. So,
well, he's meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister
concept,
this morning, so it could very well be that that'll be part of the discussion.
Joey Votto is named Prime Minister.
That would be something. No, the Canadian Prime Minister is meeting on Tuesday morning with Donald Trump, and I think part of that Joey Votto, I think, is on the agenda of things I want to talk about. That $2 dolls and 5 pencils. Those are the things they're going to talk about. It's going to be great.
Whenever Donald Trump has a meeting with anybody these days, somebody on the edge of the Hall of Fame is a topic of it. Before it was Pete Rose.
Yep.
Now it's Joey Votto. Maybe Freddie Freeman someday. I don't know.
On Monday, Roger Goodell and D.C. Mayor Marion Bowser were in the Oval Office because Trump made the announcement that the NFL draft next year is going to be on the National Mall in D.C. And it always happens to anybody who, when they do the photo op after your discussion, you get trapped in the room with him while the media ask him really difficult questions, and he says horribly inane, evil things, and you're in the picture as he answers them. There's the famous shot of Michigan's governor,
Gretchen
Whitmer. Yeah, I met Gretchen twice when I was working in Michigan. Whew. It is a very attractive woman. And she would literally she was holding a file folder, and she literally held it up over her face in the background as though, if you can't see me, it won't. It's like, that doesn't, Gretchen, I'm sorry. It doesn't work. We know you're there. Anyway. I also wanted to talk about, I'm stealing this topic directly from the Roundtable podcast on The Athletic with Andy McCullough, Sam Miller, and Grant Brisbee. They were talking about the resurgence of one of my favorite all-time players, Javier Baez. Javier's currently slashing 309, 350, 479. And he has only struck out 23 times in 94 at-bats, which for Javi is pretty good. Like, you could live with that. It's like a 26% strikeout rate. Usually it's, 70, whatever it is. And he is now the Tigers center fielder. And he's good at it.
I saw him go back and make like a 5% or something catch. Like a 5% catch probability, and he made it.
He has now played every position in the big leagues except catcher. And they talked about something that it's a reason I got really interested in the discussion, because Javi was for a time the Cubs' emergency catcher. Even with Kyle Schwarber on the roster, Joe basically said he'd use Javi before he'd use Kyle again. And Javi apparently caught in high school for at least part of it. And when you watch the way he does everything, I think he would have been a really good catcher.
It's not impossible. I mean, he's very athletic, and just put that simply, that allows somebody to do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and he's
only 32, right?
He's 32, so, yeah. Like he should have another like 5 years left in him. Right. I don't know. He at least has 2 more after this, because the Tigers owe him like $70 million. So he's gonna be around for at least 3 more years. And they got into
they talked junior Miguel Cabrera plan there.
Yeah. They were talking about how, he, as a defensive player, at shortstop, at second base, he was amazing. He's just so like, his baseball intellect is very high. Like he's the guy who, when the line drive is hit to him with a runner on first, actually doesn't just think, oh, it would be nice to just smother this ball and then start a double play. He just does it. Like he actually does that stuff. And he was, his ability to tag. They were Francisco Lindor had a great tag last night in a win over the Diamondbacks. It saved the game, basically. And they were going through it this morning on MLB Central, showing it over and over again. And I'm like, that's like Javi's 47th best tag.
Right.
I'm not even impressed. Although it really was pretty impressive.
He's only led the league in strikeouts once. Just
once. And it was a doozy. That was when he went to the Mets. And he played really well for them, but he struck out like half the time for them.
Right.
It was unbelievable. That was quite that was the Mets going to boo the fans and Javi losing his earring. That was all that wrapped into one.
Well, that's why he's still playing. He's still making an effort, because he's got to visit all the fields to find all his lost jewelry.
Yeah. When he digs in at home plate, he's literally digging in. He's like, he's got a little spade with him, and he's, Javi, what are you doing? You're going to get a pitch clock violation. I think it's here. I think I see it.
Looking down on his feet. Oh, he's checking to see where he is in the batter's box. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
A really interesting part of their conversation was Sam looks at, while they're talking, Grant is convinced that, maybe this is a permanent turnaround for Javi. Like even at 32, he has learned how to like not chase pitches, and he's just letting, these offensive numbers are back. And while they're doing it, Sam literally pulls up his Baseball Savant page and just says, Grant, what's the dominant color you see there? Well, there's a lot of blue, which is not good. You want red, you don't want blue. So Javi, while he's currently slashing 309, 350, 479, he is in the 14th percentile in exit velocity. So for those of you who don't know how math works, that means 86% of the players have a higher exit velocity than Javi. Right. 25th in barrel rate, 13th percentile in hard hit. His chase is 3. 3. He's elite at chasing pitches he shouldn't be swinging at. His whiff rate, he's 23rd, or at 23rd percentile in whiff rate, and 8th percentile in walks. And so you're like, well, but maybe he's always hit like that. So, 2019, he almost won the MVP. If he hadn't gotten hurt and the Cubs hadn't gagged down the stretch, he may have held off Christian Yelich and won the MVP. So his exit velocity, which this year is in the 14th percentile, in 2019, he was in the 83rd percentile. His barrel rate, which currently is in the 25th percentile, was in the 88th percentile. His hard hit rate, which is currently 13th percentile, was in the 76th percentile. But he did improve in one area. Even though he had a great year that year, his chase rate in 2019, he was in the 2nd percentile.
Oh my God.
His whiff rate, which is 23rd percentile now, he was in the third back then when he was really good.
Right.
And then his walk rate was 8. His 8th percentile now, it was 11th then. So it's actually slipped a little bit since then. So the metrics would tell you that Javi probably not going to hit 309 for the season. It doesn't mean he can't be a useful player because he does a lot of he's a really good base runner. He's a good defender. He's got power. He may just be blindly lucking into hits right now. But I was thinking if he's going to have an extended career beyond this, he needs to become, his role, I think, would be to be like another guy who's very popular, who's been on some really good teams, currently on what's probably the best team. Couldn't Javi be Kike Hernandez?
Oh, sure.
It's a guy who can play every position on the field for you. Swings wildly. Kike, his first 4 hits of the year were homers. He has 5 homers. He has 12 hits in the entire season. However, I'm like, well, I bet they're the same player. This will be fine. Kike's exit velocity, 77th percentile. Barrel rate, 81st percentile. Hard hit, 29th, so not that great. Chase, 26. Whiff, 14. Walk rate, 45th. So their offensive profile, Kike's is a little more encouraging than Javi's. But I would still, if I were the Cubs, I would still want Javier Baez playing third base for me.
Well, he's shown himself to be somebody that can play multiple positions. And I don't know for how long he can do that, but that's something. He can run into a home run every once in a while. And that, I mean, really, what else is there?
Right.
So that could be enough right there to keep him. And he's got teams love a World Series winner. So he's always got those things in his resume. That should be able to, as long as he isn't too bad as a hitter, which he can be if he's not real interested, I guess. If he stays, above a certain line, then he can stay employed. And,
yeah, I mean,
what he can't quest to find his earrings.
What he can't do is the way he hit the last 2 years. Like right. That's unplayable. He was. I'm going to find it real quick here. In 2023, he was 222, 267, 325, 60. His OPS plus is 63. Struck out 125 times in 510. Actually, isn't as bad as I thought. But last year, 184, 221, 294. Now, part of that was his season ended really early last year because he had hip surgery. So if he was playing injured the last 2 years, then you would expect somewhat of a resurgence if the hip surgery works and he's healthy. And maybe that could be a big part of why he's useful again, is that he can actually move. Because a Javi who can't move. And then it was weird last year when I guess he just wasn't playing as much. He only played, actually for Detroit, until this year, he had only played shortstop. They hadn't tried him in any other position. And this year he's played center, third, and short. When he was with Joe, with the Cubs, he played everywhere. He played right, he played left, he played some first base. He's literally played every position now except for catcher. I don't know if he's pitched. I don't think so. I don't remember him pitching. But he should do that too. And he should pitch left-handed because he's ambidextrous. He does almost everything left-handed except swing a bat and throw a ball.
Huh. He's a left-handed writer.
And he does have some left-handed at bats because he started a thing which I really like when he started, at least with a couple of years to go with the Cubs. If the other team would bring in a position player to pitch at the end of a blowout, Javi would bat left-handed. And he damn near hit a home run in one of them. Like he crushed one to the warning. I remember that. I think that should be mandatory. If the other team brings they basically are waving the white flag.
Right.
Then you should have to bat opposite. Just for fun. Let's go for full entertainment value.
Oh, I think you got something there. I wonder if he you mentioned his versatility with the Cubs. Did he get into it? No, I'm a shortstop mode.
I don't think so.
Because
I don't think Javi ever.
And is that why that he hasn't played more positions with the Tigers? Because they're doing fine this year, but that's not a team where you're like, oh yeah, they got Whitaker over there at second base. You can't play there, so it's not. You think there would be opportunities and would have been more for him to play other positions.
I mean, when he went to the Mets, he went there and he played second base.
Yeah,
and he didn't seem to complain about that. Of course, it's a bit tough to complain when I think I should play shortstop and not you, Francisco.
Right. Yeah. No A-Rod ego card there. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's. Well, David Ross had a problem with Javi, but David had a problem with a lot of guys,
Right.
Especially guys who were Hispanic. But we don't need to get into that. The Tigers, as we are recording, have the best record in the American League, and they do it largely because they can really pitch. With Tariq Skubal and Reese Olson, Jack Flaherty he doesn't have a lot of wins, but he only has a 3.79 ERA, 46 strikeouts in 38 innings in his return to the Tigers. Casey Mize,
Dan Petrie and Milt Wilcox rounding out the rotation.
Casey Mize, even their fifth starter, Jackson Jobe, is a hotshot prospect. But when you look at their lineup, they've gotten Spencer Torkelson is producing.
Right.
He's got a 153 OPS plus an 889 OPS. Bad batting average, but who cares? Because his on base is 349. He's slugging 540. Gleyber Torres turned out to be a pretty nice pickup for them. He came to Detroit just to grow a beard. And then the Yankees are letting everybody grow beards. Glaber's like, what the fuck?
Right.
You can see why they had to move Javi to center because Trey Sweeney is tearing it up at shortstop with a 234, 317, 350. Wow, that's fine.
Right.
Their right fielder is a guy Cub fans might remember, Zach McKinstry, who had a couple of cups of coffee with the Cubs.
Yeah.
He was
Zach McKinstry's a guy that like 3 or 4 teams were like, we've got to get this guy in the lineup somehow.
Yep.
How do we do it? And then he didn't do anything. And it happened like 3 times. And now finally he's doing something where maybe it looks like he's going to stick.
He was the return when the Cubs traded Coldplay frontman Chris Martin to the Dodgers in 2022. Who's much taller in person. Like 6'8".
Chris Martin, the pitcher?
Well, isn't the same guy?
I'm not going to say no.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's not that that's a common name. I just thought this was interesting. So do you know what the Tigers, according to Baseball Reference, what their odds to make the playoffs are? 35 games into the season.
I can.
Well, if you look, it's going to ruin the suspense.
I am. Yeah, I don't.
How is that a thing? 99.9%?
Yeah.
What's the 0.1%? They crash at the Newark airport? Is that
35 games into the season? I don't know. It's a good record.
They have their lead is a game and a half.
Yeah.
It's not like they haven't, not they have bolted out to this great start where they have an 8-game lead and the rest of their division is crap.
I don't know how this is calculated, honestly.
Yeah. It seems
it's one of those things where all the playoff, the odds for Pacoda or for Fangraphs or whatever, it always seems to me like if it can't turn on a dime, it can turn maybe on 2 dimes.
Yeah.
And go from, huge to losing 25% in about a week. So then what good were the odds before when it was 99% if you can lose so much of it, if it can hemorrhage 25% of its total in a week? I don't know.
Well, when the Cubs went to Japan and lost the 2 games to the Dodgers, when they went, their playoff odds were like 70%. When they came back, they were 26%. Because they'd lost 2 games in Japan in March. They're currently 98.3%. They're 22-14. They just have 1 fewer. What? No, they basically have the same record as the Tigers in a similar division. I don't get it. I guess realistically, it's too early to calculate playoff odds. Like they should hold that stat until like July, and then you can start futzing around with it.
Right.
But it just seems funny.
I think some of it is because calculated in a way that there's a bunch of players on the roster that made the playoffs last year, so that's why we have good playoff odds right now. I think that's some of it. It goes back to preseason, and I don't know. I find that dubious.
So I wanted to get your expert opinion on something, a hot topic among Cub fans right now, which is with Justin Steele already injured, caught a mild case of the Tommy John disease. He didn't need a full Tommy John disease treatment, just partial, but he's out until next May probably. And Shōta Imanaga now on the injured list with what they're referring to as they said it's just a mild hamstring injury. We're not even sure why we put him on the injured list. It's so mild. He'll be back in like August. The Cubs need a starter on Saturday, and Cub fans are clamoring for 2022 number 1 pick, 9th overall pick, Cade Horton, who was pitching very well at Iowa. But here's the interesting thing about Cade Horton. He never pitches.
Right.
He played 1 season at Oklahoma because he was injured his freshman year. He redshirted, and he was draft eligible after 1 year. I don't know how that worked. When you go to a 4-year school, don't you have to stay until you're a junior? Anyway, he got drafted in 2022. He pitched 53.2 innings in college total. In 2023, he pitched for 3 levels for the Cubs, Myrtle Beach, South Bend, and Tennessee. 88.1 innings pitched. Last year was pitching very well for Iowa, got hurt. 34.1 innings. So far this year at Iowa, 29 innings. As a grown man, Cade Horton has pitched 205 1/3 innings. How much can you realistically expect him to pitch this year, given that he's averaged less than 50 innings pitched since 2022?
Is some of the I know you mentioned injuries. I just wonder how much of this is also by design, like to prevent injuries, and it seems like they're scared of him getting hurt. I mean, to the point that they're scared of him getting hurt.
Well, he got hurt.
Not only does he get hurt, but they're scared of it happening again.
So at Oklahoma, part of the reason he didn't pitch very much was he was bad until the College World Series when he was amazing. He added a slurve, I think. I know he added a pitch, and he was great. And the Cubs got a lot of credit for basically saying, this guy, we're picking 9th, and this guy has the biggest upside. We're just going to take him. And they took him. And I think they did. I think they were very careful in 23 as to how much they pitched him because he hadn't pitched very much before that. But I'm sure the plan for him was to pitch a normal amount of innings last year, but he got hurt in May. And it was another one of the Cubs' wonderful things where, it's just a mild injury, he'll be fine. And then during his rehab, he re-injured it, and he didn't pitch again. And now he's pitching. And so I guess my thought with this is you might as well call him up and have him pitch now. Because you may have to shut him down early. He may get hurt again because he's not. So you probably should just use him. You have a need right now, and he's healthy, and he's this is probably the best he's going to be this year. Just do it. He starts 2 or 3 times while Shōta's out, and then you can. And I kind of wonder then if you don't send him to the bullpen where you can manage his workload.
I remember a discussion kind of like this last year. At the beginning, was it last year? Yeah, with Skeens on the Pirates, and somebody's like, why waste if you really do look at young pitching, like they use the metaphor of bullets. If you only have so many bullets, why are you wasting them in the minor leagues? If the guy is competent enough to get people out in the majors, why not use that before something bad happens? So it's I think you're proposing something similar here with him. And like you said, he's only made 47 appearances since 2023. So not even that many. That includes college. So 36 since 2023, averaging 11 a year.
He barely pitches ever.
Four innings. He barely pitches, and he goes like 4 innings an outing.
Yeah.
Four. In 2023, that was about how much he averaged. 9 times. 4, even less than that in 24, and last year, not quite 5. So he built himself up to almost 5 innings per outing last year. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They should bring him up.
And
if you have a 120, if you're a talented pitcher and you got a 124 ERA in AAA, you could probably come up.
I mean, why? I guess that my whole thing is that what are you waiting for if you don't use him now? And if he was a normal prospect, say he pitched 110, even not a huge number, say he pitched 110 innings last year, you'd probably feel like, well, we could probably get him to 150 this year, so we don't need to bring him. If he's still working on his control or whatever, we can leave him in Iowa now. But at some point, you're going to end up shutting him down this year anyway, just because you can't add 100 innings to a guy's workload from one year to the next. So May and June might be his moment. Like his best chance of helping you this year could very well be in the first half of the season. Not waiting for we might need him late in the year. Well, he probably won't be there if you need him late in the year. You're going to have somebody else. Plus, if the idea is you really expect to trade for a pitcher at the deadline, then this is how you get to the deadline when you're still alive, is, you use him to do that. The argument I remember with Skeens was the Pirates were like not letting him pitch very deep into games in the minors, but he had at LSU. So they're like, he's already proven he can do, like, he knows how to do this. Why are you artificially and obviously it really affected him because he struggled so much since he got to the big leagues. So.
Right. The only argument I can see is a bad argument, but it's one that is part of the philosophy of front offices. And that is the whole, we need to delay when we bring him up because that will start his contract clock. That's the only thing I can think of that is really why you wouldn't do that. Now, because in 8 years, we don't want to pay him what he's worth because we're worried about whatever the salary is going to be in 2033.
Yeah.
So,
and given his injury history, the idea that he's still going to, you would kill if you were like, damn it, I wish we had waited another 3 months before we brought him up. Because chances are you'll never be in that position where you're like trying to give him this huge contract because he's proven to be so durable and so good.
Right.
So it doesn't make any sense to not do it. But they could just, they could go to Jordan Wicks because, a guy who can't keep his ERA under 6 at Iowa is a guy you want starting for him when against the Mets in New York. That'll be great. But it's interesting to me. It's a conundrum because how do you build him up now? I mean, I guess the only way to really build his innings thing up would be to leave him in. That would almost be if they had a defensible argument. It would be, we're going to leave him in Iowa this year because we want him to get to 100 and some innings, and we need to be able to pull him after 4 if his pitch count is up, and we need to do whatever because we've got to get him to a point where we can make a starting pitcher out of him for a whole season, and he just hasn't ever done it in his life. So how can we expect him to do it now? But on the other hand, it's like maybe he's not destined to be a starting pitcher. Maybe you're going to bring him up, and he's going to make a few spot starts for you, and then he's going to go in your bullpen. And he's going to be a huge part of your bullpen for the next 5 years. But I'll let Jed worry about that. And no matter what happens, I'll just complain. I reserve the right to complain. Speaking of that, my favorite general manager at The Athletic, Jim Bowden, is already proposing trades. And these ones he wants done in May. He's not waiting. These are trades that need to happen now.
Right.
So the first one, because you are a Twins expert, whether you want to be or not, involves the Twins. And here's his trade. The Orioles acquire Joe Ryan from the Twins for Maury Povich and Connie Chung's kid, Cade. Is that who Cade Povich is? Kobe Mayo.
It isn't, but I wish it was.
Kobe Mayo and Michael Foret. Or Foray. I'm guessing it's Foret. I don't think he looks all that French. So A, do you think that's a fair deal? And B, if he's convinced that the Twins are gonna trade Joe Ryan in May, why don't the Cubs just get him?
Well, I don't think the Twins are going to trade Joe Ryan in May.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody like Joe Ryan is going to be traded in May. I think they don't know what to do with Jim Bowden, so they had him do this. I wouldn't know what to do with Jim Bowden either, but I mean it's fair-ish, I guess. Mayo has been on hold, if you will, trying to get to the majors for a while now with the Orioles. He's been up a little bit, maybe 40 or 50 plate appearances, and he didn't hit the first go around. But the Orioles have been so, with a couple of exceptions, they've either held on to their prospects too long or they've made bad trades with them. I think maybe the Zach Eflin trade that they made last year, I think it was, that's gonna turn out to be okay. But a lot of the other ones that they've made, Trevor Rogers and so forth, have not worked out. If I were Cade Povich has not been great for the Orioles. He used to be a Twins prospect. I don't know.
Maybe that's why.
Hopefully Jim knows that, and it's not a coincidence. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to know him. I don't know if they miss him all that much or what. But I would. I mean, if I'm the Twins and I actually do move Joe Ryan to a team like the Orioles, I would hold out for Basayo, the catching prospect.
Yeah.
And I might do that. So, but that would be, July, closer to the deadline, and maybe for him. And if Adley is playing well by then, I wouldn't be surprised if if the Orioles make a trade like that, and if the Twins are still peeing on themselves, then I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. I would hold out for him though.
Cade Povich was part of the Jorge Lopez trade. Yikes.
That worked out for like a couple of weeks, and then it didn't work out.
It was Cade Povich, Juan Nunez, Juan Rojas, and Yenier Cano.
Ooh,
all that.
That's right.
For Jorge Lopez, who pitched pretty well for the Cubs last year after the Mets had to cut him because people weren't sure because of his accent who he was blaming for.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
David Stearns is like, I don't know. What do you think he said? Let's just get rid of him. All right, fine.
How ironic, because it's like, is your name David Stern or David Stearns or John Stearns?
Oh, is it Stern?
I don't know. I'm
Stearns?
very confused by names and accents, so I don't know.
Bowden's reasoning is the Twins are 15-20 and they're in fourth place. They did little at this past offseason, so it's time for a roster reset. This is your penalty for your inaction. You have to trade one of your best pitchers. Yeah,
well, there are. I mean, it would make sense if we were further on into the season and they were. You mentioned the Tigers' playoff odds. It's still only 35 games.
Right.
In a week or one series or whatever, things can tighten up quite a bit. So the Twins are proving themselves to be not as good as I thought they were. That's true, but they're certainly not out of it. And their inaction in the offseason, I think, as I've mentioned before, stems from ownership sort of making them inactive because they're not interested in adding payroll, and the situation is kind of uncertain, like who's going to be running the team in a couple of months, and those prospects of their sale fell through, and now they're I don't know what they're doing.
I get it. I guess it's a basic business thing. When you think you're trying to sell the business, you don't add a bunch of payroll. You don't saddle it with more payroll unless you're selling it to a venture capitalist, and then they're going to saddle all their debt on top of it. But I remember the Cubs took the opposite thing when Sam Zell bought the Tribune. Like, he basically ordered John McDonough to spend money. Like, let's win some games, then the Cubs will be worth more, and I can sell them. And that's the whole reason Alfonso Soriano was a Cub.
Yeah,
because Hendry got to a point in the contract negotiations where, like, well, that's too much, and McDonough hopped in and basically just finished the deal because Sam told him to do it. So, but I don't know. The Twins don't they get Royce Lewis back tonight?
Yeah, Royce Lewis is back.
Till he hurts himself again. He's back.
Till he hurts himself again.
Waiting to rupture a quad.
They've missed, and Willie Castro too. He's kind of their utility person, and not an unimportant player. Unimportant, not an unimportant player. Now I sound like Javier or Jorge Lopez.
Jorge Lopez.
I don't. I'm not sure what tense I'm in. So, I mean, the Twins have been starting Cody Clemens a lot. That's not good.
Go Yankees!
And he hit a home run in Fenway Park with Roger in the stands. So that was an. I don't know why we're doing things for Cody Clemens and Roger. I don't know exactly what kind of deal that was that they signed with him, but I'm glad he's had a nice couple of weeks. Although that was really the only good moment that he had. He keeps coming up in 6th inning, 7th inning. They need a home run or they need some runs. And Cody Clemens again, huh? But they have been playing a little bit short because of injuries. And as you said, Royce Lewis is back and could be, if he hit the way that he did before he got hurt at the start of last season, literally the start, then that's a big return. But if he plays like how he did most of last year after he was presumably healthy, then that's not really an addition that's going to move the needle at all. So.
Cody Clemens is a big part of one of the most iconic games in Cubs history, and he wasn't playing in it. Back in 2003, on a Fox Saturday game, Roger was going for his 300th win. Mm-hmm. And so Fox was making a meal out of this. And Roger was even doing the dumbass thing where after every half inning, he would take his jersey off. He had a trunk in the dugout. And he was putting it in there so that he would have, say he pitched 7 innings, he would have 7 jerseys to sell from his 300th win.
Right.
And they had the Yankees had the lead, and Kevin Kennedy was the roving reporter for Fox that day, and he interviewed Roger's wife and Cody. Cody's a little kid at the time. And he asked Cody a question, and this was Cody's answer. Go Yankees! So for his entire life, Cody Clemens, to anybody who read DeCipio, has simply been the Go Yankees kid. Kind of like Mark McGuire's son has always been known as the enormous bat boy.
Right.
Because he was 10, but he looked like he was 18 when he was a bat boy for the Cardinals. And the Cubs would eventually draft the enormous bat boy. I
love DC's enormous bat boy comic book series. So that was a great story arc. I like that.
Yeah. And then that's the game that Kerry Wood and Hesop Troy ran into each other, and Hesop fell down and hit his head on the foul line, and they had to bring the ambulance out onto the field. Mm-hmm. And Joe Torre went to Juan Acevedo with the lead, and Eric Karros hit a home run, and Roger had to go get his 300th win somewhere else.
Yeah.
Jim Bowden trade number 2. Phillies acquire Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals for Mick Abel.
Okay. I've heard of Mick Abel. Heard of Clark Gable, too. Yeah,
Abel,
he's, sure.
Abel was the 15th
pick
in the 2020 draft. He's been slow to develop, which is why the Cardinals are going to trade their most valuable trade asset just for him. Nobody else. They're just going for Mick.
think
Uh,
Jim was slow to develop.
He's off to a promising start this season with a 2.75 ERA and 39 and a third innings in AAA. He's averaged 3.9 walks per 9 innings this season after allowing 6.5 per 9 last season. Helsley's a two-time All-Star who led the majors in saves last year with 49. Should have been 48. It was a fucking wind at Wrigley. Patrick Wisdom crushed what should have been. I mean, he hit the ball so hard that Helsley, like, he could see him. He didn't even turn around. He's just swearing. And the left fielder is standing there and the ball drops right in his glove, right in front of the wall.
Right.
And he's like, oh, all right. I guess we didn't lose. I think that was in the 8th. Chances are the Cubs would have blown it in the top of the 9th anyway. But anyway, he should not have had 49 saves. Should have been 48. And Jim says they have to do this trade early because for the Phillies to give up Abel in this deal, it's only fair they have a chance to extend Helsley at the time of the trade. So you got to have lots of runway to work out a new deal with Ryan Helsley.
And you can't do that in July, I guess?
No, apparently not.
They will. I have no doubt that Jim is right that these two players will be traded. I don't know for each other. It will not happen in May.
No.
But he is. Remember when the Twitter was calling Jim Ralph? Because why was that? Because Bowden either referred to himself as Ralph once, or maybe it was like a burner account, and I don't know. But Jim Bowden one year became Ralph.
I always think of George Costanza when I think of Jim.
Yeah.
Because remember George, the famous scene where he sleeps with the cleaning lady, and then the Elaine's boss, who he's apparently working for, also has to talk about, and George does was that wrong? Should I have not done that? Jim had a similar, towards the end of his Reds, he got caught with a little hanky-panky with one of the employees. So I always think of George Costanza when I think of Jim. They're consulting adults. It was more of it wasn't really a scandal as much. It was like, good Lord. I mean, what is Jim doing now? Kind of thing. It's another, you're right. I think the same thing. This is Helsley's getting traded. He's just not getting traded in May. Trade number 3. The Rangers acquire Luis Robert from the White Sox for Dylan Dreiling and Cole Drake. And everybody loves the Drake.
Sounds like some names that were made up.
He's doing this, I think, because this came to mind because the Rangers have finally given up on Leody Taveras. He has been.
Yeah. They did bring back Evan Carter, though, to see if he can fulfill the promise.
Yes. Evan.
From a couple years ago.
Hoping that. Now, good news with Evan. He's hitting in the minors this year. He hit 33 points higher than he did in the majors last year. Problem is, he hit 188 in the big leagues last year. It's amazing because that guy, coming off the World Series, like he was like the surest thing. Like he proved it. He looks the part, and he's been bad since then, to the point where Wyatt Langford has blown right past it. Luis is leading the American League in at least one category that I know of. Let's see if it's more. Because he's struck out 44 times in 117 at-bats. Oh, he does. He also leads the American League in stolen bases with 15 and in caught stealings with 5. He's a 3-tool player.
So,
strikeout, stolen bases, and caught stealings.
Yeah, I can't, I can't abide anything that the White Sox do with any player. I think he certainly could use a trade. He's obviously healthy enough because he's doing some things to lead the league. So he's not hitting, but I haven't seen his StatCast numbers, but he's going to be a guy that's going to go somewhere and gets hot, and it's going to look like,
Well, he's
Why
got
did the White
this.
Sox ever get rid of that guy?
He's got this in common with Evan Carter. Evan hit 188 last year. Luis is hitting 188 this year.
Right.
Yikes.
His bat speed is 91st percentile.
There you go.
So he's swinging hard. He's never been a hard hit rate, 58%. This was like in 2023 when he was good. So it's kind of like Javi that he hasn't, he swings enough and doesn't get enough pitches that his average isn't that good on a hard hit rate. But he is a good barreler, I guess. I don't know how is Luis Robert 93%, 93rd percentile in barrel, but only 58% hard hit rate. What's he doing?
Well, he is. Here's the weird one to me is so this year, 78th percentile in barrel rate, but his squared up percentage is squared up. He's in the 2nd percentile. What is the difference between how do you barrel a ball, but not square it up?
I don't know. It seems
That's
to be
how you
a
hit 188, I guess. Yeah,
so what good is the barrel?
There's some interesting red on here, like his barrel rate this year, 78th percentile, bat speed, 91st percentile, because he likes to swing hard. He's in the 87th percentile in walk percentage. So that's a good thing. You like that. He's an 88th in sprint speed.
That's different than what he's used to. We're not used to him walking. So it's like he's taking pitches just to take them.
Or is he walking because he's who hits behind him at the White Sox? I mean, does he just never see a strike? Is that? There's
no point in looking. It's not anybody good.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's Ron
2023 when his OPS was 857. Ron LaFleur. In 2023, when the last year where he was a really good hitter, a walk percentile 7th.
Yeah.
So
it's complete extreme swing, which leads me to believe it's not an approach thing as much as this is the only dude on the team that can do anything to us, and we're just not going to throw him a strike. He needs
but you'd almost think that he would swing at it anyway. I don't know.
Well, he needs them to
How outside could it be?
He needs them to get blown out even more than normal so other teams don't care. Like, pitch to him. Who cares a shit? We're up 11-1.
He's only 27, so I think he will. You'll see him go somewhere else and be really good, or at least good like he was before. Maybe he was a flawed player before, but you could, in 600 plate appearances, he could hit 30 home runs and steal 20 bases. He can do that again.
I don't know why he's not getting more pitches to hit. So this is just from their last game, their 3-0 loss to the Royals. Luis hit cleanup. Andrew Vaughn hit 5th. He's slashing 178, 219, 287. And then,
another success story in development for the White Sox.
And then Joshua Palacios is hitting behind Vaughn, 188, 328, 250. That's their 4, 5, and 6. I can see why he's not getting anything to hit.
I always wonder that, though, about Jose Ramirez on the Guardians. That lineup, I don't know if it stinks, but it smells funny. And I would not throw him anything ever. But he still manages to. He's not had a great year yet, but I'm talking any time in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this team, the Guardians, they were in the World Series and they still wouldn't fill out their outfield.
Yeah.
They refuse to put everything they can into a winning team, and they win games anyway. It's very. The Twins person in me is coming out, but. Well, he doesn't get. He shouldn't get anything to hit either, but he still swings the bat.
So Dylan Dreiling was the 2nd-round pick in last year's draft. He's a left-handed power hitter, hitting 250, 350, 364. That's not a lot of power there, Jim.
That's not power.
4 doubles, 2 homers, and 6 steals.
Sounds like a guy that the White Sox would go after.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Drake has a 3.31 ERA with 28 strikeouts and 16 innings in AA. That sounds more like
it's not like us.
That sounds more like a thing he might actually want. Trade number 4. Tigers acquire Nolan Arenado from the Cardinals for right-handed pitcher Josh Randall and Carson Rucker. Is there any world in which Nolan Arenado waives the no trade to go to Detroit?
It's a nice park. You can live in the I mean, I actually like Detroit, but
I mean, this is a guy who wouldn't go to Houston because he was convinced he could just wait it out and go to the Dodgers. Do we think that
he still might.
that in May you can convince him to go play for Detroit? I could see in July. I could see maybe convincing him to go to Detroit.
Right.
I can't see it in May.
When you have some leverage on him, maybe you can convince him. Yes, Jim. That's why another reason why a trade in May is not going to happen.
I mean, is
with
Heim
Nolan Arenado, because he can refuse it because no one else is trading for Nolan Arenado right now.
Right.
So there's no leverage on him to accept a trade somewhere. Hello.
You don't think Heim Bloom can walk in and just point to, look, they're 99.9% to make the playoffs, Nolan? How can you turn that down? Why do
you have that written on your palm?
I have it tattooed there. Hi.
Did you see the funny play that of Nolan Arenado made the other day where he fell into the stands at St. Louis?
No.
Yeah, you need to look that up. The still photos are funniest. There was a net there, so he did a little Eloy where he fell into the net and landed, I want to say, on like an 8-year-old girl. She took the brunt of it.
Oh, no.
And the still photos of Nolan Arenado with his legs wide open, it was very gynecological. And when people had like very hilarious looks on their faces.
I can see the...
There was one.
The still is just his
lady,
legs sticking up out of the stands.
Right. Do you remember that scene in Airplane where they go and get? There's a shot. It's not even a scene. A shot in Airplane where Leslie Nielsen is doing a gynecological exam during the crash of the plane.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
And there he goes. Oh, look at the number of fans there. Oh yeah, it looked like it was kind of like one of those.
They're all Mets fans.
Oh, he sits right on her head.
Yeah, but the funny thing is the looks on the faces of there's a Rachel Dratch lady and a Ruth Buzzy lady and a couple of bros with looks on their faces. I'm the only person on Twitter anymore, but
Cardinals Nolan Arenado crashes into young girl on diving catch. Gifts family ball in sweet moment. Which was the sweet moment? When he sat on top of an 8-year-old girl, or when he gave the family? Here, would you like the? I'm not going to chip in for medical bills, but how would you like a ball? By the way, I'm
not going to sign anything. I have an NDA. I'm not signing anything.
By the way, it'll be $11 for the ball.
Yeah, right. For taxes, for the tax. All you got to do is pay the tax.
That's almost in the exact same spot. Cub fans will remember that Addison Russell once crashed into a fan and got their nachos all over him. He had to play the rest of the game with nachos all over him, and he paid for them to get new nachos. But knowing what we know now about Addison, who famously once paid child support in coins, that he probably paid it all in pennies.
I can't believe Roger Clemens didn't have an extra Addison Russell jersey for him to use.
That's right. Oh, got to go to the trunk. Here we go. See? I told you this would come in handy. Let's see. Josh Randall. Who's Josh Randall?
I think he's on the Timberwolves. No, it's Julius.
Yep. 2 low-level prospects should be sufficient for the Cardinals, as this deal would be more about opening opportunities for young players such as Nolan Gorman. Young players such as Nolan Gorman? Or how about just Nolan Gorman? Or young players such as?
Yeah, you got to... I would cover that with some other player. I don't know who.
Yeah.
But it's like Nolan Gorman and X. But maybe there isn't.
Jordan Walker, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals and the White Sox shared development tips.
It's funny. I need to take back a criticism I had of John Mozeliak was I couldn't believe when they had supposedly all these prospects. They had all these guys like clogging up. Like they had a bunch of right fielders and a bunch of third basemen, and he didn't trade any of them. It didn't make any sense. Well, now I know why. None of them are any damn good. There wasn't anybody for anybody. Other teams are like, no, we're not trading for that.
No, we know Dylan Carlson isn't any good. Stop it.
Nolan Gorman so far for the You got to open third base for this ball of fire. 175, 286, 302. 21 strikeouts in 63 at-bats.
That guy you might be able to trade in May, but just him.
And Jordan Walker. 198, 261, 274. 35 strikeouts in 106 at-bats. We know what the Cardinals are good at. Swinging and missing. And the final one, oh, for fuck's sakes. I didn't get to number 5. Royals acquire Jorge Soler from the Angels for Ben Kudrna. 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 What is that? That's not a name. That's an eye chart.
I don't know who that is.
Is he just suggesting? Is like, you know who I could picture Jorge playing for the Royals? Yeah, because he did for 5 years. Oh, that's right. Well, they've already got a jersey for him. They won't even have to spend any money. They just dig one out of the closet. Hey, you should have stopped this one at 4 if that's the amount of thought you're going to give into this and just send Jorge back to the Royals.
He's a local kid, Ben Kudrna. He's from Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
Oh, there you go.
Suburban Kansas City.
In return, the Angels would get Kudrna, who has a 5.23 ERA and 5 starts at AA this season, 26 strikeouts, 20 innings. He was a second-round pick in 2021. Law ranked him as the number 8 prospect in the Royals farm system, while Pipeline has him at number 4. This trade would give the Angels salary relief and more payroll flexibility, which I'm sure Arte Moreno would use, as Soler is signed for $16 million a year through 2026. Do we think the Royals want to take that on?
What's his salary?
$16 million a year, this and next. I mean, it's not huge, but still. I mean, I like Jorge. He's a World Series Cub. He's a World Series MVP for the Braves. But I think you could probably get that production and not have to spend $16 million a year for it somewhere else.
That's true. I mean, they need to get it from somewhere. I don't think that the prospect price is very high.
No,
I know the guy's the 8th pick, the 8th number 8 prospect or number 4 prospect with the Royals, but I don't know if that means anything as far as like compared to the rest of the league. So,
his name is
Jorge.
I was going to say his name is even more fun than I thought. It's Kudrna. It's pronounced Koodurnuh. Kudrna. Sorry, I had to get that out.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I would go with fewer syllables if I were them with that name. I'd just say like Kudra.
Just Cooter.
Just sort of ignore some letters in there.
Like Jim Bob Cooter.
Letters.
Didn't Jim Bob Cooter, when he was coaching with the Lions, show up at a drive-thru naked? Pretty sure he did.
That could be. Soler's got that World Series history, though, so maybe you're paying for a little bit of that. Remember, he's got a good history of doing something in the World Series, so there's a little bit of a premium there. But the Royals could use like 4 people in the lineup, and I'm not exaggerating. They need like 4 hitters, and they'd be pretty good. So,
still got Nelson Velasquez. Cub fans are still mad about that.
Yeah, no, he's on the White Sox, I think.
Oh,
I don't know.
And Alexander Canario is now a Pirate. Another guy that Cub fans couldn't believe that Craig wouldn't play him more. Well, I was wrong about Jim Bob Cooter. However, I wasn't that wrong about him. It was a different guy who did the drive-through thing. But Jim Bob Cooter was arrested and charged with aggravated burglary in 2009. In June 27, 2009, a woman said he climbed through an apartment window, stripped down to his underwear, and got into bed with her. Good Lord. What is with there were 2 guys on the Lions staff were just like throwing clothes off.
Well, hopefully Ben Johnson won't do that. Yeah, our guy Nelson Velasquez is with the Royals. He's hitting 171 with the Storm Chasers at AAA. Hit 200 last year, so I think they figured him out.
It was Joe Cullen, who the Lions assistant coach, who pulled into a. Sir, this is a Wendy's. He pulled into a Wendy's Completely naked. All right. The rabbit holes. My stupid mind takes me down.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, we've decided that Jim Bowden's full of shit.
We decided that today. That was
Today.
decided a long time ago.
We were on the fence, but now that was all the evidence.
Right. This is all we need to be pushed off the fence.
All the evidence we needed.
I think Jim was actually pushing Nationals prospect off the fence literally when that scandal erupted.
Maybe Willie Mo
stealing their money.
Maybe Willie Mo was a witness, and that's why he kept trading for Willie everywhere he went. I gotta get
right.
I gotta get Willie back in the fold. He's no secrets.
Enemies closer.
Willie's like, who is this guy? Why do you keep trading? I don't remember. Why do you keep trading for me? Did you see what happened to poor Reds rookie Tyler Callahan last night?
I did. It was like he and the fence became one. It was that was gruesome looking.
So it became an inside the park home run, right? For Matt Olson. You can't give. Can you give a guy an error for breaking his arm as soon as he catches the ball? It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, that would be insult and injury added together.
But see, this is bad because the Reds, it's just like, see, this is what we get for playing an outfielder in the outfield. He breaks his arm.
Right.
We're going back to all infielders all the time in the outfield.
Right.
They don't run into walls and hurt themselves. We'll stick infielders out there. They're much safer.
Yes. We got a second baseman lying around we can put out there.
It was ruled a homer. The Reds challenged it. They thought maybe he had hung on long enough. So he...
We're going to get something out of this for the kid.
See, the last thing I want to ask you about was, did you see Chris Guccione umpiring this last weekend in San Francisco during the Rockies and the Giants? He had a couple. I don't
think I saw this.
He had a couple of interesting moments. He was umpiring at first base, and maybe it was Brenton Doyle. Somebody hit the ball back to the pitcher, and it was going to be a bang bang. No, it hit the ball to the first baseman, and the pitcher was covering. And he tried to slide around and grab and touch the bag on his way by first. And Guccione had gotten himself in an awkward position right in line and had to jump over him. And he did. He successfully leapt over the rolling player, landed, and then kind of did like a little shimmy and gave the out sign. It was actually kind of cool.
Right. Okay, yeah.
And the fans were, at last appreciative of an umpire. And they give him a nice little ovation. Well, then the next day, there was the hitter hit like a foul ball that bounced up off the catcher and was kind of bouncing away towards the Giants dugout. Guccione ran over and grabbed it, and then stopped and looked at the Giants dugout, and then jumped in the air to reenact what he had done the day before.
I did see that. I didn't see the context of the play before though.
It's like,
I did see him catch the ball.
It's like, all right, Chris. Saturday that was cool. Sunday, knock it off.
Right.
No callbacks. We don't need callbacks. You did one cool thing in your life. It's on video. It'll be fine.
I appreciate a guy milking something, beating something to death, going over after its expiration date. I like jokes like that. So, but it definitely is too much.
Yeah. So I was watching the game, and Dwayne Kuiper and Mike Krukow were wondering what would have happened had Joe West been the umpire at first base when he had to jump over. They were both pretty sure that Joe would not have successfully completed the leap, and everyone would have gotten thrown out of the game for laughing at
it. Yes, even the fans. Yeah. Would have gone Angel Martinez, or Angel Steve McMichael, and Angel. Who's the umpire that he?
It was Angel. It was Angel. Yeah.
It was Angel, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, what a moment. I've talked about this before. Another thing that multiple things happen in games. We learned this and remember this crap. That game was also the one where the Cubs won in the most ridiculous fashion. There was a game against the Rockies when the Rockies just threw the ball all over the field on the final play, and Ricky Gutierrez, who had stopped, started again and scored the winning run. And our favorite moment in that, when Mike Donahue and I went to replay it, was that Chip got the call completely wrong.
You're right.
Ricky slides in. He's out. Safe. Cubs win. Like, oh, God. You just can't help yourself. Anyway, I don't know why. This should have come up when we were talking about the Rangers trading for Luis Robert. Why wouldn't you, considering that he would now get to work with Brett Boone as the new hitting coach? Brett has all that experience of never being a hitting coach at any level, ever.
I thought it was desperate of them to change their hitting coach in the first place, but this is really desperate. This is not Clint Hurdle with the Rockies, at least. Not that he's going to do any good with that lineup, but at least he's got hitting coach experience. Right. So
Brett Boone could be like, I hit 37 homers for the 2001 Mariners. Yeah. Did you flunk any drug tests? I'm not here to talk about the past.
Yeah.
But guys, line up for your vitamin D. We're going to start hitting. Yeah, the Donnie Ecker got fired. He was not the hitting coach. He was the offensive coordinator. God.
I saw an explanation of that. He was the offensive coordinator, and he hadn't been the hitting coach until this year. But he was kind of the hitting coach, and now he was the... Yeah.
It's like he had been the offensive coordinator for years.
Yes.
And they added hitting coach to his duties, whatever the difference in that is.
I don't. It's all how you divide the labor, I guess. But he had been like the organizational hitting philosopher or whatever. So. That's something I suggest the Twins do, is fire their hitting coach. But they just hired one, so they just changed the hitting coach this offseason. So.
The Cubs, shockingly, didn't fire their hitting coach last year. That was just like an annual event. And now look at them. They're the best offense in the National League. That's what you get if you keep a hitting coach for more than 1 year at a time.
Right.
I have no idea. As much as I enjoy watching them on a nightly basis, and they are fun to watch, I don't quite understand how the offense scores as many runs as it does.
Yeah.
But it's fine with me. I had this long theory I kept for the last 2 years. I ran it on about how all they need is to get one great hitter and put him in the middle of this lineup, and it would all work. And they did. And it does.
Right.
And I still watch it, and I don't understand how it works.
Right.
It's like, I don't get it. But I guess if Carson Kelly is going to hit 361 all year, but you said he's not going to. Now I'm very disappointed.
Sorry. I said he's not going to hit 561.
Oh, good. But he can hit 361, you think? I mean, that's attainable for a guy with I want to look up his career batting average. I'm guessing it's got a couple of twos at the front.
229.
Yeah.
He's like 8% below league average, but he's got 3 seasons where he's been over league average, so he could do that.
So I did a rambling solo podcast on last Thursday. Mostly, I wasn't going to do a podcast on Thursday, but I ended up doing one because one of the readers, he still didn't explain why he did it. He Googled Nefi Perez, and he was very much amused by the Google AI result that he got, which talked about that he was best known for his defensive prowess and for the time that he ate a rosin bag on the mound because he thought it was a Hostess snowball. And that's because a few years ago, I wrote a fake oral history of the 2005 Cubs when Dusty repeatedly said Nefi had saved the season. And I was kind of intrigued and irritated by the fact that Nefi was always on the pitcher's mound. He was like the de facto pitching coach. He would interrupt play over and over again to go talk to the pitcher. And my whole theory was that Kerry Wood had told him that the MLB had a new partnership with Hostess, and occasionally they would put a snowball on the mound instead of the rosin bag. And Nefi wanted to go we wanted to check periodically to see if there was a pastry on the mound instead of the rosin bag. So I wrote this whole thing with fake quotes from Kerry. I even got one from the MLB vice president of sponsorships about how we never did that. If Mr. Perez ate a rosin bag, he ate a rosin bag, and Nefi insisting that he knows the difference, and it was the thing. And apparently Google thinks that's real. And so they did that. So
so you are corrupting the internet.
Yes.
I like it.
So I did a dramatic retelling of that portion of the oral history for the podcast listeners last week. But then I also got to I was talking about Carson Kelly. And on my theory, and you know more about this than me, so maybe my theory is that if you're good enough to be a Major League Baseball player, there's at least a decent chance that at some point in your career, you can get on a hot streak. Because you're good. You're one of the, 1% of the best baseball players in the country. And yes, you may be a 229 career hitter, which is still 229 more than I would hit if they let me play Major League Baseball. That if everything fell right for you over a 6-week span, you could hit 361. Like, the fact that he's doing this is yes, unsustainable, but it probably shouldn't be like that shocking. It should probably be more shocking that more guys don't have these like brief like bouts of, holy crap, this guy's good. And then over time, everything evens out. And you go back to hitting, you end up hitting what you hit, but you get there all different kinds of ways.
There's a difference between calling something unsustainable. Well, no kidding.
Yeah.
You know, how many people ever hit 361 for an entire season? But he could still, he's done it before. This is 4 or 5 times now where he's been above the league average in hitting. So there, and which is good for a catcher, especially a part-time catcher.
Yeah.
So he could be one of the 5 best hitting catchers in the league this year. Absolutely. You know, that's not going to look like 360, but it's going to look like something pretty good. So, and your theory is right about that's how all hitters are. They get hot for a while and they cool off. You know, you're never as, it's a cliche, but you know, you're never as bad as you are when you're not hitting, and you're never as good as you are when you are. So it all kind of evens out.
Yeah, after that trade from the Cardinals, where he was getting very little playing time with the Cardinals because, you know, Yachty. He was in Arizona for 4 full years, and he was good 2 of the 4 years. Like his first year with the Cardinals, 245, 348, 478. He had an 826 OPS and a 112 OPS plus. He wasn't very good in 20. That was the COVID year. But then in 21, he was 240, 343, 411. Not nearly as good, but he was above league average hitter as a catcher. And then he just kind of started bouncing around. Detroit, from there to Detroit, then to Texas, and now to the Cubs. So I think he's going to hit 361 now. I've convinced myself.
Okay.
This is real. He's going to win the batting title and maybe the Triple Crown, and that's going to be great. I mean, to me, the most interesting thing is the fact that in 61 at bats, he has 17 walks and only 7 strikeouts.
That's a guy with a good approach.
That's how he's emulating Barry Bonds. He only swings once in a bat, and when he does, crushes the ball.
Right.
All right. Well, I look forward to the rest of the Carson Kelly MVP season.
I do too. I can't wait.
All right. Well, thanks.
Okay, Andy.
Many of us have herpes.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much, Andy.